rescue at the river. The night sky of the alien world was restless, full of dark clouds rolling over the sharp peaks of the mountains. Lightning cut across the sky, turning the great river below into a silver serpent that twisted and roared. The human stood on the rocky bank, his boots sinking into the wet mud. He had been traveling alone for many days, his mission simple: map this strange world, study its life, and return. But the storm was stronger than anything he had expected. The river had risen high, and the roar of its waters drowned even the sound of his own heartbeat. At first he thought the shape in the river was only a log, broken loose by the storm, but when he looked closer, his eyes widened. It was a figure, thrashing weakly, being pulled under again and again by the furious current. Without hesitation he dropped his pack and armor, throwing himself into the freezing water. The river struck him like a wall, trying to pull him down. His lungs screamed, but his arms pushed against the waves. He swam hard, each second fighting both the current and his own fear. The figure slipped beneath the surface, vanishing for a breathless moment. He kicked with everything he had, diving under the waves. His hands brushed against fabric, silk, smooth and strange, and then he found an arm. With a desperate pull, he dragged the figure up. The alien woman coughed water, her long silver hair plastered across her face, her violet eyes half closed with weakness. She was dressed in flowing robes that tangled around her, pulling her down like chains. He cut them loose with the blade strapped to his side, and together they rose through the storming water. Every stroke back to shore was a battle. The river tried to tear her away from him, but he held on tighter, gritting his teeth. His muscles burned, but he did not let go. When his boots finally scraped against the rocky ground, he collapsed onto the mud, dragging her body onto the safety of the bank. She lay there gasping, her chest rising and falling as the rain poured down around them. The human rolled to his knees, shaking from exhaustion. For a long moment, he only stared at her. She was unlike any alien he had ever seen, tall and graceful even in weakness, her skin pale with a faint glow that shimmered under the storm. Her hair spread around her like liquid silver, her eyes strange and deep as galaxies. He pressed his ear close to her mouth, relief flooding him when he heard her shallow breath. "You're alive," he whispered to himself. He was not sure why he felt so relieved, but the feeling was strong, almost overwhelming. The storm began to calm, but the silence was broken by a sound behind him, boots striking against the wet ground. He turned and his eyes widened. A group of aliens stood there, tall and armored, their cloaks soaked with rain. They were armed with long spears that glowed faintly in the stormlight. The human's first thought was that they would kill him. He raised his hand slowly, showing he meant no harm, but their eyes were not on him. They were on the woman lying at his side. Gasps spread through the group. Some dropped to one knee, pressing their fists against the ground. Others whispered words he did not understand, their voices sharp with disbelief. The leader, a broad figure with eyes like burning coal, stepped forward. His gaze shifted from the woman to the human. "You," he said in a low, rumbling voice. His words were rough but clear. "Do you know who she is?" The human shook his head. "I only saw her drowning. I couldn't just let her die." The leader's jaw tightened and a strange silence passed between the warriors. Then one of them spoke words that carried weight, even though the human did not know their language. He felt the heaviness of it, the importance. The others nodded, their expressions torn between respect and anger. The woman stirred then, her weak voice cutting through the storm. She reached out, her hand trembling, and touched his arm. "You saved me," she whispered, her accent soft but her meaning clear. Her eyes opened wider, locking on his, as if seeing something unexpected, something forbidden. The leader's voice came again, louder this time and filled with finality. "By sacred law," he said, "the one who saves the princess becomes her fated mate." The human froze. He thought he had misheard. Princess? Mate? He looked around, but every alien there stared at him as if destiny itself had chosen this moment. The woman's hand still rested on his arm, her eyes shimmering with a mixture of fear and something deeper. The storm passed above them, but inside the human's chest another storm was only beginning. The law of the clan. The human knelt in the mud, rain dripping from his hair as the alien warriors surrounded him. Their eyes were sharp, glowing faintly in the stormlight, each face caught between awe and hostility. The words still echoed in his ears, fated mate. He wanted to believe it was a mistake, a misunderstanding, but when he looked at the woman he had saved, he saw no denial in her eyes. The leader of the warriors stepped forward, planting his spear into the ground. The sound cracked like thunder. His voice was low but carried weight, a voice used to commanding life and death. "You saved the princess," he said. "Sacred law binds you. She belongs to you, and you belong to her." The human felt a chill that had nothing to do with the rain. He shook his head. "No, I don't belong to anyone. I only pulled her from the river." The warriors muttered angrily, their hands tightening on their weapons. But the princess raised her hand weakly, stopping them. Her violet eyes burned like fire against the storm. "It is true," she whispered, her voice trembling but steady. "The law is older than our clans, older than the stars we claim. The one who saves the blood of the throne becomes bound. You cannot break it, or the gods will curse us all." The human stared at her, struggling to understand. He was just an explorer, a wanderer with no place even among his own people. Now these strangers claimed he was bound by some law older than their history. He wanted to laugh, but no one else was laughing. The leader's eyes narrowed. "You may not want this, human, but the law does not care what you want. The law only binds." The warriors began to chant softly, repeating words he could not understand. Their voices grew louder, echoing off the riverbank, until the air itself felt heavy with meaning. The human glanced at the princess, who still lay on the ground, her hand clutching her chest. He could see the truth in her face. This was no game. And then, out of the shadows, another figure stepped forward. Taller than the rest, his armor black as obsidian, his face sharp with pride and anger, his eyes burned with something far darker than duty. "This is madness," the warrior spat, pointing his spear toward the human. "He is no mate for the princess. He is an outsider, a stranger, a weak creature from a lesser world. I am the one who has fought for her hand, the one who trained to guard her life. And now this thief of fate takes what is mine?" The clan leader said nothing, but the silence was heavier than words. The human felt the stares of dozens of warriors digging into him, some filled with respect, others with fury. The rival warrior stepped closer, his voice like poison. "If he is to be her fated mate, then let him prove it. By blood, by trial, let him face the tests of worthiness." The human's heart pounded. Trial? Worthiness? He had no weapon, no armor, no knowledge of their traditions. But the way the rival spoke, the way the others nodded told him this was no choice. It was a trap disguised as honor. The princess's voice broke through again, weak but desperate. "No, he saved me. The law has already chosen. He does not need to prove." But the rival cut her off. "Then he will die as a coward, and the law will be free." The human clenched his fists. He could see the fear in the princess's eyes, fear not for herself, but for him. Something inside him shifted then. He had not come here to be a hero, nor to claim some throne he did not want. But he had risked his life for her once already. He would not let her be dishonored now. He rose to his feet, standing tall despite the circle of spears around him. His voice was steady, cutting through the storm. "If there must be a trial, then I will face it." The rival smiled, cruel and eager, as if he had been waiting for those words. The clan leader gave a slow nod, striking the ground with his spear again. "Then it is decided," he declared. "At dawn, the human will enter the trial grounds. If he survives, he is worthy. If he fails, his body will be cast back to the river." The warriors roared their approval, the chant rising higher, echoing like thunder. The rival smirked, certain of his victory. The princess closed her eyes, whispering words the human could not hear. As the storm faded, the human looked out into the dark forest beyond the river where the trial grounds waited. He had faced storms, beasts, and loneliness before, but now he would face something far greater, an alien world's judgment, and deep in the shadows, unseen by all, other eyes watched. Not all clans agreed with the law. Some had other plans for the human and for the princess he had saved. The burden of belonging. The human did not sleep that night. He sat near the fire in the center of the alien camp, his hands resting on his knees, his eyes staring into the flames. Around him the clan moved in silence, preparing for dawn. Some sharpened their weapons, others whispered prayers to their gods, but all of them stole glances at him. To them he was not a guest. He was a problem. The princess rested inside a tent of woven silver cloth, guarded by two female warriors who looked at the human with suspicion. He could still hear her weak breathing, carried by the wind. Every time his thoughts darkened, he remembered the moment her hand had touched his arm, her eyes full of both fear and hope. That memory burned inside him like the fire at his feet. But the words of the rival warrior echoed even louder. "He is no mate for the princess. He is an outsider." Those words were poison, and the clan had swallowed them too easily. When the first light of dawn touched the horizon, the drums began to beat. The sound was deep and ancient, shaking the ground under his feet. The trial grounds waited. The human rose, his muscles stiff but ready. He had no armor, only the clothes on his back. A single alien blade was placed in his hands, shorter than the spears carried by the warriors, but sharp enough to kill. The rival warrior, tall and proud in his black armor, smirked as he approached. "This will not take long," he said. His eyes promised pain, not just victory. The clan moved as one, marching through the forest until they reached a wide clearing, the trial grounds. Stone pillars rose like broken teeth, half buried in moss. Strange symbols glowed faintly on their surfaces, carved by hands long gone. At the center was a circle of sand, marked by red stones. The leader raised his hand. "The law demands proof. Enter the circle. Survive the trial." The human stepped inside, the rival following with heavy strides. The circle closed, and silence fell. At first nothing happened. Then the ground trembled. From beneath the sand something moved. The human's grip tightened on his blade as a beast rose from the earth, a creature with 6 legs, armored scales, and a mouthful of jagged teeth. Its roar shook the pillars, sending birds scattering from the trees. The rival laughed. "This is your trial, outsider. Not me. That." He pointed at the beast, which lunged forward with terrifying speed. The human dove aside, rolling in the sand as claws ripped the ground where he had stood. He scrambled up, heart pounding. The rival stayed back, smirking as if the beast was his ally. The human realized then the trial was never meant to be fair. It was meant to destroy him. The beast charged again, its eyes glowing with hunger. The human slashed with his blade, sparks flying as steel scraped against armored hide. The strike barely scratched it. He backed away, searching for weakness. The clan shouted from the edges, some cheering, others already turning away, convinced he would fail. But he was human, and humans did not give up. He studied the beast's movements, noticing how its armor shifted with each strike. Small gaps appeared near the joints of its legs, dangerous but possible. The next time it lunged, he didn't retreat. He slid under its body, driving his blade deep into the soft gap. The beast roared in pain, throwing him across the sand. His ribs screamed, his breath shallow, but he pushed himself back up. Blood, thick and black, poured from the wound. The beast staggered, furious now. The rival's smirk faded as the human met its charge again. Another strike, another gap. He used speed, not strength, dodging and cutting, until finally the beast collapsed with a thunderous crash. Silence. Then the chanting began. Half the clan shouted his name, the other half stared in disbelief. The rival stepped into the circle, his face twisted with rage. "This proves nothing," he spat. "You are not worthy of her. You cannot be." The human's chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. His blade dripped black blood. He looked the rival in the eyes, his voice steady. "I didn't come here to be worthy. I came here because I wouldn't let her die." That is enough." The rival roared, raising his spear to strike him down in fury. But before he could, the clan leader slammed his weapon against the stone, the sound like thunder. "Enough," he commanded. "The law is clear. He faced the trial. He survived. He is chosen." The rival froze, his body shaking with rage. His eyes burned with hatred that promised this was not the end. The human turned, and his eyes found the princess. She had stepped from her tent, her body weak but her gaze strong. For the first time since the river, she smiled faintly. But deep in the shadows beyond the trial grounds, more figures watched. Another clan, cloaked in secrecy, their eyes glowing like embers. They whispered to each other, plotting. The human had survived one trial, but darker trials were coming. The trial of worthiness. The body of the beast lay still in the sand, its blood seeping into the earth like dark smoke. The human's chest burned with every breath, his ribs aching from the creature's strike. Yet he still stood, his blade steady in his hand. He had survived, but he knew the trial was not finished, not while the rival warrior still glared at him with fury. The clan surrounded the circle in silence, some stunned, others whispering. Never before had a human faced one of their sacred beasts and lived. The princess leaned against her guards, her eyes fixed on him, hope flickering like a fragile flame. The rival stepped forward, his black armor catching the light of dawn. "You think you have proven yourself?" he spat, his voice sharp with hate. "No outsider can ever be worthy of our princess." The clan leader raised his hand, voice heavy with command. "The law is satisfied. The trial is complete. He is chosen." But the rival did not bow, his jaw clenched, his spear trembling in his hand. He turned his eyes to the clan, his voice rising. "Will you let an outsider take what belongs to us? Will you let him bind himself to our throne? He cheated fate, and I will not stand for it." The trial of worthiness. The body of the beast lay still in the sand, its blood seeping into the earth like dark smoke. The human's chest burned with every breath, his ribs aching from the creature's strike. Yet he still stood, his blade steady in his hand. He had survived. But he knew the trial was not finished, not while the rival warrior still glared at him with fury. The clan surrounded the circle in silence, some stunned, others whispering. Never before had a human faced one of their sacred beasts and lived. The princess leaned against her guards, her eyes fixed on him, hope flickering like a fragile flame. The rival stepped forward, his black armor catching the light of dawn. "You think you have proven yourself?" he spat, his voice sharp with hate. "No outsider can ever be worthy of our princess." The clan leader raised his hand, voice heavy with command. "The law is satisfied. The trial is complete. He is chosen." But the rival did not bow. His jaw clenched, his spear trembling in his hand. He turned his eyes to the clan, his voice rising. "Will you let an outsider take what belongs to us? Will you let him bind himself to our throne? He cheated fate, and I will not stand for it." Murmurs spread through the warriors. Some nodded, their loyalty divided. The humans saw it. The rival's words were poison, spreading fast. The rival pointed his spear at him. "Face me now, not beast against man, but warrior against thief. Let blood decide what law cannot." The human hesitated. He had no wish for more fighting, no wish to kill. But the circle of warriors pressed in, their eyes eager. They wanted to see blood. The princess shook her head weakly. "No, stop this," she whispered, but her voice was lost in the roar of the clan. The leader frowned, torn between law and anger. At last he struck his spear into the ground again. "So be it. The human will face the warrior. If he triumphs, none may challenge again." The rival's smile was sharp and cruel. He circled the human like a predator, spear spinning in his hands. The human gripped his alien blade tighter. He had survived the beast with wit, but this was different. This was a warrior who lived for blood. The fight began fast. The rival struck first, his spear slicing the air with deadly speed. The human barely dodged, the tip grazing his shoulder. Pain burned, but he stayed on his feet. Another strike came, heavier, forcing him back. The rival's laughter echoed. You are nothing. You should have drowned with her. The human's anger sparked, but he held it tight. Anger would only get him killed. He studied the rival's movements, the weight of his armor, the overconfidence in every strike. The rival fought like one who had never known defeat, and that was his weakness. The human let him press harder, step by step, until the rival believed victory was near. Then, with sudden speed, the human rolled aside, striking at the joint of the rival's armor. Sparks flew, and the rival roared in pain. The clan gasped. The rival's fury turned wild. He struck again and again, each blow heavier than the last, his rage blinding him. The human dodged, cut, and dodged again. At last the rival lunged too far. The human seized the moment, slamming his blade against the weak gap under the rival's arm. The spear clattered to the sand. The human stood over him, blade at his throat. Silence filled the clearing. The rival's chest heaved, his pride shattered. The human's voice was steady, clear for all to hear. I do not fight for thrones. I do not fight for power. I fight because I saved her life, and I will not let anyone take that from me. The clan erupted in shouts, some in anger, some in awe. The leader's face was grim, but even he could not deny the truth. The law is clear. Twice he has faced death. Twice he has survived. He is chosen. But the rival's eyes still burned with hatred, and in that moment, something darker happened. A shadow moved at the edge of the clearing. One of the hidden figures from the other clan loosed an arrow. It hissed through the air, aimed not at the human, but at the princess. Time slowed. The human saw it first. Without thought, he leapt across the sand, throwing himself in front of her. The arrow struck his arm, blood spraying as he fell to his knees. Gasps filled the air. Chaos broke out. The rival looked shocked, but the human gritted his teeth, pulling the arrow free. His voice was hoarse but strong. They are coming, he warned. This was never just about me. There is another enemy. The forest beyond the trial grounds stirred with movement. Figures cloaked in black stepped from the trees, dozens of them, their weapons gleaming. The rival trial had only been the beginning. Bound by fate, the clearing of the trial grounds erupted into chaos. The human knelt, his arm bleeding where the arrow had torn through muscle. But he did not let go of the blade in his hand. The princess cried out, rushing forward despite her weakness, her hands trembling as she touched his wound. The clan warriors shouted, forming a protective wall around their leader and princess, spears raised toward the forest. From the shadows, dozens of figures appeared, another clan, their armor black and crimson, their faces hidden behind masks carved like beasts. They moved with purpose, their weapons raised high. These were not challengers bound by law. These were assassins bound by hate. The rival warrior froze in shock, his pride forgotten as the enemy advanced. He had wanted the human's death, but not this, not the dishonor of another clan breaking sacred ground. The leader's voice thundered, "Defend the princess! Defend the law!" The warriors roared, charging into battle. Spears clashed, swords struck, and the trial grounds became a storm of blood and steel. The human staggered to his feet, pain burning through his body, but his eyes locked on the princess. She was the target. The assassins had not come for him. They had come for her. He would not let them take her. One assassin broke through the line, sprinting toward her. Without thinking, the human moved. He slammed his blade into the assassin's chest, dragging him down. Blood splashed across the sand. Another came, swinging a heavy axe. The human ducked low, rolling, then drove his blade into the back of the attacker's knee. The alien fell screaming, and the human struck again, ending him. The rival warrior fought beside him now, his face twisted not with hatred, but with fury at the invaders. Their weapons clashed side by side, back to back, against the endless wave. For the first time, the rival looked at the human not as an enemy, but as a brother in arms. The princess watched, her heart torn between fear and pride. The law had bound her fate to the human, but now her heart whispered the truth. He was not chosen only by law. He was chosen by courage. The assassins pressed harder, their leader stepping into the circle. His mask was red, his voice deep with venom. This law is a lie. The princess belongs to no outsider. Tonight, both she and her savior die. He charged, his twin blades flashing. The human blocked one, but the second cut across his side. Pain exploded, yet he stood firm. The rival struck at the masked leader, but was thrown back with a brutal kick. The assassin leader raised his blades for the final strike. The human's vision blurred, his strength fading. Yet deep inside, something stronger than fear burned. He remembered the river, the storm, the moment he had seen her drowning. He had not let her go then. He would not let her go now. With a roar, he twisted his body, slamming his blade upward into the assassin's chest. The leader froze, his eyes wide with shock. The human pulled the blade free, and the masked figure collapsed into the sand, lifeless. Silence spread. The assassins hesitated, their leader fallen. The clan warriors pressed forward, cutting them down until the survivors fled into the forest, their cries fading into the distance. The battle was over. The human stood trembling, blood dripping from his wounds, his strength nearly gone. The rival warrior approached, breathing hard, his armor broken. For a long moment the two locked eyes. Then the rival lowered his head. "You are no outsider," he said quietly. "You are bound, not by law, but by fire." The clan leader raised his spear high, his voice carrying across the battlefield. "The trial is complete. The battle is complete. He is chosen not only by law, but by fate." The warriors knelt, their voices rising in one chant. The human felt the weight of it, the power of their belief pressing into his soul. The princess stepped forward, her silver hair glowing in the morning light. She touched his face gently, her eyes shining with tears. "You saved me twice," she whispered. "Not because the law demanded it, but because your heart did. From this day you are my mate. From this day you are one of us." The human closed his eyes, feeling the truth of her words. He had come here as a wanderer, a stranger. Now he stood as something more, bound not only to her, but to a destiny greater than he could imagine. But far beyond the forest, in the dark halls of other clans, whispers grew. The death of the assassin leader would not end the storm. It would only feed it. The outsider who had claimed the princess would face greater enemies still. And as the sun rose, casting gold over the trial grounds, the human understood one thing. This was not the end of his story. This was only the beginning.